Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Marathons HQ, where we do movie marathons connected to new releases and where we enjoy and review some of our favorite movies. This video is part of the Spider-Man Brand New Day Movie Marathon and the Avengers Doomsday Movie Marathon, where we are watching one movie every week as we prepare for the release of Spider-Man Brand New Day in July 2026 and Avengers Doomsday in December 2026. Today we are discussing Spider-Man No Way Home. Released in 2021 and directed again by John Watts, this is the most recent Spider-Man solo movie and the final movie in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. John Watts has directed all three, and I think this is where he does his best work. This is also the movie that really busted open the multiverse. Spider-Man Far From Home had kind of toyed with a few elements of multiverse, but this movie really took a step right into the multiverse in very exciting ways. Overall, I absolutely love this movie. I think it's my favorite Spider-Man movie for sure, of this Tom Holland trilogy, definitely, and maybe out of all of them. It's also one of my most memorable theater experiences of all time. I think if any of you saw this movie in theaters, you may have had something similar. But I just think this movie knocks it out of the park. There is a lot going on, but I do think it keeps a solid through line, and there's so much to love in this movie. For positives, I will talk about the visual effects, which I think are stunning, and there's a lot of them in this movie. The villains, where we get to see the return of so many classic villains from previous Spider-Man movies in all three iterations that we've seen already. And I think their costumes are also upgraded and really cool. I think the action scenes are incredible, which I'll specifically highlight the Spider-Man Doctor Strange fight, where Norman turns into the Green Goblin, and then the following apartment building fight, and then the final fight, which is the culmination of everything. And I think that those are just great action scenes. The three Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire back and Andrew Garfield back, and them interacting with Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man is so much fun. And I think they have some great callbacks. But finally, I think even with all this going on, the main positive is that I think Spider-Man No Way Home is still Tom Holland's Spider-Man's movie. It centralizes him, and it's about him and his character growth and what he's going through. I think he's dealing with his identity going public. He's dealing with the death of Aunt May. He's dealing with the weight on his shoulders of all of these things. And I think that's very well done. For negatives, it's a very small micro negative and nitpick, but they have 5 villains in this movie. And in the Spider-Man comics, they often have a little team of bad guys called the Sinister Six. It's just such a shame that they couldn't throw in one more villain. I know we always complain about too many villains in a movie, but when you have 5 and you could have had 6, that just would have been cool. But as I've gone through it, I can't think of anybody that they could have brought back to make a 6th villain and not just get the movie falling over itself. I don't think you could bring back Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't think you could bring Topher Grace's Venom from Spider-Man 3. And then I don't think it would make sense to bring back Vulture or Mysterio. So I can't really think of who it would be, but it is just a bit of a shame. I don't love that Ned is able to so easily do magic, even though he's never had any inclination towards magic. They just kind of throw that in, and then he's able to make portals pretty easily. And then I don't love the ending of this movie. I mean, after the final fight, that's all great. But then at the end of this movie, Doctor Strange's spell kind of reboots this universe. Not the universe, but the Spider-Man universe. And so it kind of washes away Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and everything in Spider-Man No Way Home. So he almost is rebooting within his own universe in a series that has been plagued with reboots because we're already on the 3rd version. So I don't love that it kind of erases everything at the end of this movie. So those are my negatives. Spoiler alert for Spider-Man No Way Home, even though I've already spoiled some things, just even this description of positives and negatives. The visual effects in this movie are stunning. We have a lot of returning characters like Sandman and Electro, and their visual effects connected to their characters, I think, are much improved over what we'd seen before. And even the Lizard, I think his design is better. very visual effects heavy. And then in just all the battles and all the things that we see going on, there's lots of visual effects and lots of fights and lots of practical things. And when Peter is fighting in some of the action scenes, you feel him going through a wall or getting blasted through something. And so I just think the visual effects are very strong in this movie. Next, we get the return of many classic villains. We get Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn Green Goblin. We get Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. Thomas Hayden Church comes back as Flint Marko Sandman. Rhys Ifans comes back as Dr. Kirk Connors, the Lizard. And then Jamie Foxx comes back as Max Dillon, Electro. And they do a really cool thing here where in the comics, I talked about this in my The Amazing Spider-Man 2 review. In the comics, Electro has yellow electricity in the main universe, but then in the Marvel Ultimates comics, he has blue electricity. So in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they use that Ultimates design. And so in this one, he talks about there being new energy, and so then his electricity is yellow. It's just fun and a good nod to the comics. And so these actors coming back to reprise their roles is just a lot of fun to see them again. It's fun to see them interact with one another because most of these characters hadn't seen each other, but they talk about knowing each other in universe. And then the way that they all interact with Peter and mess with Peter, and they don't know what's happening. He's trying to figure things out. I just think it's just so well done to bring back and balance all of these villains in a way that works and keeps Spider-Man's story centralized. Then I think the action scenes in this movie are phenomenal. One of the main ones is when Peter has gone to Doctor Strange to have him cast this spell, and then Doctor Strange sees this spell going wrong, so he goes to clean it up, and then Spider-Man runs away from him because he wants to try to give these villains a chance to redeem themselves. So then Doctor Strange knocks Peter's astral form out of his body, which is a very cool visual, and you see the little Spidey sense wiggles through the air around his head like you see in the comics, but they kind of did that in the astral form, which is very clever. And then he's able to control it and gets back into his body, and then they have this really cool fight where they're using some of the classic Doctor Strange visuals of geometry and kind of kaleidoscope visuals with Spider-Man kind of moving through them, and then how Peter is able to use his math genius to stop Doctor Strange is just a lot of fun. I have so much fun in that scene. And then next is the scene where Norman turns into the Green Goblin. Peter has felt unsettled about Norman being there, but Willem Dafoe plays beautifully that dichotomy, that almost Jekyll and Hyde version of the Green Goblin. So then when he turns and kind of goes back to villain mode and messes everything up, then they have this incredible fight through the apartment building where Green Goblin is just laughing in Peter's face and slamming him through the ground and slamming him through the wall and throwing him out of windows, while all of these villains are saying, no, we don't want to be redeemed. We need to just get out of here. Such great fight scenes, culminating in the death of Aunt May, which is so well done and so earned because we've had a relationship with Marissa Tomei's Aunt May, so that when she dies and then she delivers the proper verbiage of with great power there must also come great responsibility, you feel that impact as an audience member because we've grown up with her. We've seen Peter's relationship with her. It's not just the first 20 minutes of the movie, here's an Uncle Ben who drops a line. I just think that whole scene building up to that is beautiful, and then her death being at the hands or responsibility really of the Green Goblin is just poetically Spider-Man to me. And then the final fight is incredible. We get all three Spider-Men. They don't know how to work together because they're all solo heroes. Our Peter rallies the troops, and then they work together. And when all three of those Spider-Men land on the Statue of Liberty's head, that is such a powerful visual and so much fun for comic book movie fans. So all of the action scenes, these and many more, I think are superbly done and a lot of fun in this movie. And then the three Spider-Men. This is just such a feat of filmmaking to have a story that can be crafted by the writers and executed by the director and everybody behind the scenes in a way that pulls these three franchises together. They've been rebooted and new versions and different universes to try to make this immensely popular Spider-Man character work. So then they come up with this plot that's going to bring all of them together. Going into this movie, I saw it opening weekend because there were so many rumors that the other actors, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, would be in this movie, but nothing was confirmed. There were a few little hints in some of the trailers and some of the interviews that they might be in it, but we weren't sure. So going into it and sitting in the theater, I did not know if they were going to be in it. And then when Ned is able to make a portal and then it shows a character at the end of the street, I knew him because I love the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit so much. I saw it from a distance and I like, this is not some big flex, but it was just, I knew in that moment that it was Andrew Garfield, and what a beautiful way for him to jump into frame and take off his mask and show that he really is a Peter Parker to MJ and Ned. Then when they open the second portal and Tobey Maguire walks through, that was so fun. Perfect way to do it, perfect order to do it, and then how the two of them size each other up immediately and shoot webs at each other, and how as the movie goes through, they talk about how Toby can make his own organic webbing and some of the villains that they fought, and they all have back problems. It's just such a riot to have these three beloved Spider-Man characters together in a way that makes sense for this kind of a crazy movie. There's lots of callbacks to the other movies, some of the lines that Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin say, some of the lines that Tobey Maguire says. And then I think one of the most beautiful ones is giving Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man that cathartic closure when MJ gets knocked off the Statue of Liberty and Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes to save her, but he gets stopped by the Green Goblin. So then Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man dives after her and rescues her in a way that he couldn't do when Gwen Stacy met her end in his movie. The love of his life, where she fell from a height and he tried to save her, but his saving her contributed to her demise. And then in this movie, he gets a chance to redo it for his new friend's great love. And it's so beautiful and so poetically told in the direction of the movie and the shots. And there's just so many great callbacks and lines and exciting things to bring in all three Spider-Men. And as you noticed in the thumbnail of this movie, I had been planning my thumbnail for this review to hearken to that scene where all three Spider-Men land on the Statue of Liberty. So all of my thumbnails for the previous Spider-Man movie reviews have been with a vision to make some art of my own of that scene. So I really love the three Spider-Men in this movie. Finally, with all of this going on, I think that Spider-Man No Way Home is able to centralize Tom Holland's Spider-Man's story, where at the beginning of the movie, his identity has been revealed to the world and all of the fallout that's coming there, where he and his friends aren't getting into their universities of choice because of the controversy, and May's life is messed up, and we get a beautiful cameo from Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, who's also known as Daredevil, and that's my favorite superhero, and I think he has a really, really fun cameo as Peter Parker's lawyer. But anyways, it's Tom Holland Peter, dealing with all of that. And then he thinks of Doctor Strange, a connection he had from the Avengers, and he goes to Strange to try to fix the problem. It goes wrong, and then our Peter stays true to himself and says, I need to give them a chance to redeem themselves. Doctor Strange says, no, not worth it in the universal calculus. But our Peter is dealing with reconciling that idea. Then when he realizes it was not worth it because his aunt dies, and in this version, we don't really know what happened to Peter's biological parents. So his mother essentially dies at the hands of Green Goblin, and then he wants revenge. He wants to go rageful. And then the other two Spider-Men aren't there for just fan service. They help our Peter realize that, yes, you're going to have emotions, but you can't give in to them. Part of being a hero is sacrificing that part of yourself. And our Peter rejects that initially. He says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to get my revenge. And then at the end, when he has the chance to get his revenge on Green Goblin, Tobey Maguire stops him. I just think our Peter goes through so much in this movie. So much character growth and so much decision and so much heartache that Peter Parker in the comics is so used to. And then at the end, he decides to sacrifice everything he loves so that the universe can stay intact, which is very sacrificial and very in line with Peter Parker. So I'm astounded that this movie is able to keep his storyline centralized and not get lost in all of the multiversal fun and craziness and spectacle of this movie. So that's the strongest positive for me. And then for negatives, there aren't many. I don't love that Ned mentions that he's got some magic in his family. So then when he gets a sling ring on and he wiggles his hands in a few ways, he's able to make portals that stay open for quite a while. If we look back to Stephen Strange, a brilliant neurosurgeon, it took him a lot of work to figure out those sling rings and those portals. So it seems very convenient that Ned, a high school grad, is able to do it, but whatever, they needed that to work. That's how they make some of the connections happen. And then as I mentioned before, I wish there was a sixth villain, but I don't think there's anybody that could have worked as a sixth villain. I think Dane DeHaan's Green Goblin would have been muddy. I think Topher Grace's Eddie Brock Venom would have been really bad to bring back. I don't think you could bring the junior Goblin, new Goblin as they called him, James Franco. I don't think that would work. And then I don't think it would work to bring in the Vulture or Mysterio from Spider-Man's own movie. So I get that their hands were tied. The only thing I could think of is that they could call J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, the sixth member or something, but I still think that would be kind of, hammy to just call him the sixth villain because he doesn't like Spider-Man, but it's just a shame they couldn't figure out a sixth, but I don't know what they could have done better. And then I don't love that at the very, very end of this movie, everybody has forgotten who Peter Parker is and that he ever existed. I get that it works in the context of this made-up spell that would work and it would close all of the multiversal breaking, but we had Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, who had 3 movies, and then that was rebooted, to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, who had 2 movies, and then that was rebooted, to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who had a Captain America movie, a solo movie, 2 Avengers movies, a solo movie, and then this one. But then by him losing everything, he's lost his aunt, and then MJ forgets him, and his best friend Ned forgets him, and all of his schoolmates forget him, and everybody who's ever known him has forgotten him. All the Avengers have forgotten him. All the villains have forgotten him. To me, it's like another reboot. And in a series like this that's had more reboots really than any other superhero, not as many actors as Batman, but kind of just pure solo reboots, it seems such a shame to throw away so much of what we've had in these 6 appearances now of Tom Holland to just be reset. So I just don't love that. I can be convinced otherwise once we see how things fall in Spider-Man Brand New Day, because maybe they've got a great idea for how that's going to work. I just don't love that the end of this movie kind of erases everything we've seen so far. Let's take a minute to talk about the Spider-Man suits. We do see the red and black suit that we saw at the end of Far From Home, and I do very much like that suit. I think the black and the red looks great together, even though some of the sightlines aren't my favorite. And then somebody throws green muck at him, so he turns the suit inside out, where you kind of see the wiring, and they've made the stylistic choice to have the wiring be gold, so he's kind of wearing a black and gold suit, which I think looks really, really cool, especially from a distance and in movement. It just looks black with gold lines in it. As you get close-ups, you see the little nodes and the wires and all those things. And I don't really understand how his lenses could flip onto the inside. But regardless, I think that's a cool design for the suit. And then later in the movie, he wears the Iron Spider suit, which, as I mentioned before, I don't love. And I don't love that it's yet another Spider-Man suit designed by Iron Man. I do like that he was able to pair Doc Ock's tentacles to his own suit. That was very creative and very funny. And I don't love the nanotech part of it, but I do think that was pretty cool. Now, how might Spider-Man No Way Home connect to Spider-Man Brand New Day? So we know that Tom Holland will reprise his role as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and he will know all of his history, but everybody who ever knew Peter Parker will have forgotten him at the start of Brand New Day. So Zendaya will reprise her role as MJ, and Jacob Batalon will reprise his role as Ned, but they will have never known Peter Parker. As far as I know, there's no other casting that's going to carry over from No Way Home to this one, and I don't think we're going to see the other two Spider-Men in Brand New Day. But it'll be interesting to see how Tom Holland's Spider-Man is interacting with MJ and Ned, because they've forgotten him, but he's not forgotten them. So I wonder how that will work, if MJ will figure it out by the end of it because she's very bright. Ned probably won't because he's bright in a different way, but not that astute. So I don't think there'll be much direct connection here other than the continuity. Now, how might Spider-Man No Way Home connect to Avengers Doomsday? Well, interestingly, two of the main characters in this movie that you would think would be in Avengers Doomsday are not on the cast list. Tom Holland's Spider-Man Peter Parker is not on the cast list for Avengers Doomsday, and neither is Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. He's not on the cast list for Avengers Doomsday. It seems very peculiar that those two major Avengers characters wouldn't be in the next Avengers movie. So we'll see if Spider-Man Brand New Day fills in the gap of why Spider-Man's not there. And I don't think we're going to see Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield in Doomsday, though I do think we may see them in Secret Wars, and they might do some of the black suit Spider-Man stuff from the comics in the Secret Wars comic books that was so famous then, but otherwise not much connection to Avengers Doomsday. So that's my review of Spider-Man No Way Home. What do you think of this movie, and how do you think it might connect to Avengers Doomsday or Spider-Man Brand New Day? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Follow Movie Marathons HQ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and also on Letterboxd, where you can see all of the movie marathons that we have done and are currently doing. The next movie in this marathon is the one we've been working towards, Spider-Man Brand New Day. I hope to see it on opening weekend, and then if I can pull together a non-spoiler review, I'll post that on the first weekend of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and then I'll do a spoiler review about 2 weeks later when we'll get into everything. See you at the movies!